I've transmigrated into a book, and so have my in-laws, while my sister-in-law is a reborn character. Our family's mission is to prevent my love-struck husband, Shin Yulo, from being bewitched by the green tea supporting female character, which would lead to our entire family being executed. When he brought the green tea girl home, our whole family put on an act. I cried my heart out, and my mother-in-law immediately had a stroke. Shin Yulo ultimately chose family ties, and we closed the door. Munching on melon seeds while reading his 80,000 word letter of repentance, but I didn't tell them that I was also reborn. This is my second life. In my previous life, we did the same thing, and then, Shin Yulo poisoned our entire family to death. Hello, everyone, welcome to my channel. Subscribe us to read wonderful stories every day. Now the story begins. Shin Yulo's 80,000 word letter of remorse was written with blood and tears, sincere and heartfelt. My stepmother, a former film queen who had transmigrated into my mother-in-law, lifted a page with her delicate fingers and marveled, with writing like this, it's a shame she didn't become a novelist. Transmigrated into the eunuch's former tyrant father, adjusting his gold-rimmed glasses with a stern expression. Your ideological awareness needs improvement, but your attitude in admitting mistakes is acceptable. You'll remain under observation. The reborn sister-in-law, Shin Ling, clung to my arm. Brimming with post-crisis relief, sister-in-law, we finally pulled him back. Our Shin family is secure this time. I nodded with a smile, but my eyes held a cold, lifeless stillness. Secure, in my past life. You said the same thing, back then. Shin Yulo wrote a letter of repentance that was a full 100,000 words long, 20,000 more than this time. We also shut the door like this, thinking that family harmony brings prosperity. Believing that the woman named Yun Qingqing was just a small episode in his life. Then, on a joyous lantern festival night, our entire family, bleeding from all 7 orifices, collapsed at the dinner table. Shin Yulo stood at the doorway, holding his beloved Yun Qingqing, his eyes colder and more venomous than I had ever seen. He said, you villains who try to separate lovers, you all deserve to die, reborn into this life. Seeing the almost identical scene before me, I felt as if a block of ice was stuck in my throat. They thought this was the triumphant conclusion of the first act, only I know, this is the prelude to hell. Mother-in-law was already envisioning the future. Once this matter is over, I'll have Yulo properly arrange a birthday banquet for you to make it up to you. Father-in-law nodded, that's the way it should be, and we'll also put those gossiping women outside in their place. Shin Ling was even more excited. Sister-in-law, I'll give you the most beautiful pearls in the entire capital. I looked at their hopeful faces one by one, then slowly spoke, my voice trembling with a hint of unease. I hadn't even noticed myself. Father, mother, Ailing, we can't just let this go. My words were like a bucket of cold water, dousing the joy that had filled the room. Mother-in-law was the first to react. She put away her theatrical demeanor, furrowing her brow. Yun, what do you mean by this? Yulo has already admitted his mistake. Do you still want a divorce, sister-in-law? Shin Ling also grew anxious. Don't be foolish. If you divorce now, wouldn't that just push Shin Yulo right into that woman's arms? That's exactly how the plot in the book goes. As someone who had been reborn, she knew the story ended with the entire family being executed, so she was doing everything in her power to change it. But she didn't know that the plot she was aware of was only the tragedy of the first life. I took a deep breath and looked at them. If he can write an 80,000 word letter of remorse for Yun Qingqing today, he'll be capable of even crazier things for her tomorrow. He's just been deceived, Shin Ling argued. As long as we keep a close watch on him and prevent him from meeting Yun Qingqing, it'll be fine. This again, that's exactly what we did in our previous life. We confined him to the estate and cut off all his connections with the outside world, and then what happened? As a result, he harbored a deep-seated hatred for us, joined forces with Yun Qingqing, and staged a drama of a devoted lover persecuted, rescuing his beloved from dire straits, ultimately sending our entire family to the grave. I closed my eyes for a moment, and when I opened them again, my gaze was resolute. No, this time, we won't stand in the way. Not only will we not stop her, but we will personally invite Yun Qingqing into our residence. Su Qingyun, have you lost your mind? The mother-in-law slammed the table, her chest heaving with anger. The father-in-law's face also darkened. Nonsense. Inviting a wolf into the house, what kind of foolish move is this? Shin Ling clutched my hand tightly, her eyes reddening. Sister-in-law, you can't do this. That woman is a viper, she'll be the death of us. I grasped her cold hand in return, looked into her eyes, and said word by word, Ailing, do you trust me? Shin Ling froze. I continued, a viper only strikes from the shadows. Only by keeping it under our watch can we see its fangs clearly and strike a fatal blow. Instead of waiting for Shin Yulo to find a way to see her, Why don't we take the initiative to bring her into the mansion? Let him see her every day, watch her constantly. The more he sees, the more that idealized image will shatter. Besides, doesn't she pride herself on being a pure, innocent little white flower? Then let her come to the general's mansion, this den of danger, and show just how pure she really is. Let's see what she's truly capable of. My tone was calm, yet it carried an undeniable force. All three of them were stunned by what I said. After a long pause, it was my father-in-law who finally spoke. He adjusted his glasses, his gaze sharp behind the lenses. Do you have a concrete plan? I knew that this former domineering CEO only cared about results and feasibility. I smiled and said, the plan is simple, just 8 words. Please enter the jar, so we can close the door and beat the dog. When Shen Yulo heard that we were going to bring Yun Qingqing into the mansion to recuperate from illness, he was completely stunned. He looked at me with disbelief, the guilt in his eyes almost overflowing. Qingyun, are you truly so magnanimous? I lowered my gaze. Putting on a gentle and virtuous appearance, husband, you exaggerate. After all, Miss Yun is your lifesaver. Now she has no one to rely on and has been implicated because of our marital affairs. If I stood by and did nothing, wouldn't that make me seem too heartless? This statement was flawlessly delivered, both highlighting my virtue and subtly hinting at the matter of marital affairs. Shen Yulo was indeed deeply moved. He took my hand, his voice choked with emotion. Qingyun, rest assured, my relationship with Qingqing is just a sibling bond. In this lifetime, I will never let you down. I sneered inwardly. Siblings, in my past life, you said the same thing. Then you turned around and brought the soul-shattering poison to our whole family, along with your dear sister. My mother-in-law sighed on cue beside us. Forget it, forget it. Who are we to be from a military family? We can't let people say the Shen family bullies others with our power, that we can't even tolerate a helpless woman. But as for our reputation, Shen Yulo immediately chimed in. Don't worry, mother, I'll go out right now and tell everyone that it was out of your kindness. Seeing her pitiful state, that you took her in to care for her. I won't let her ruin Qingyun's reputation. See, this is how men are. The more you try to stop him, the more rebellious he becomes. If you go along with his wishes and then flatter him a bit, he'll think you're reasonable and start considering your perspective in return. In the end, my father-in-law said with a stern face, this must not happen again. And so, a family crisis was resolved in a rather strange way. All thanks to our united effort. Shen Yulo was deeply grateful to me and showed the utmost filial piety to our parents. Our family seemed to have returned to the harmony of the past. Only I knew that the abyss beneath my feet was just beginning to reveal its ferocity. The day Yun Qingqing was brought into the mansion, the arrangements were extremely grand. Shen Yulo personally went to pick her up, afraid that the one he cherished most would feel wronged. She was dressed in a plain, faded dress, her small face pale and thin, gasping for breath with every step as if a gust of wind could knock her over. As soon as she saw me, her eyes reddened, and she timidly knelt down. Qingqing pays her respects to the general's wife. Thank you, madam, thank you for taking me in. I personally helped her up, smiling gently. Miss Yun, there's no need for such formalities. Please rise quickly. Yulo has told me everything. You're frail and shouldn't be put through any strain. My hand seemed gentle, but my fingernail lightly grazed her delicate wrist. She flinched in pain, and a flicker of fear passed through her eyes as she looked at me. Shen Yulo didn't notice our subtle interaction, only feeling that the scene before him was incredibly harmonious. He said with emotion, Qingyun, you are truly wonderful. I settled Yun Qingqing in the finest courtyard in the estate, named Listening to Bamboo Pavilion, which was closest to Shen Yulo's study. She also assigned the 4 most capable senior maids and 8 sturdy serving women from the household to attend to her. All daily necessities, including food, clothing, and other expenses, were to be provided according to the same standard as mine. My mother-in-law watched with wide-eyed disbelief and pulled me aside privately, saying, What are you doing? Are you treating her like a goddess to be enshrined? I poured her a cup of tea and said leisurely, killing with kindness, understand, let her live in the best courtyard, be served by the best people, and eat the finest food. Over time, she will take all of this for granted. Once a person's desires are inflated, they can never go back. The mother-in-law seemed to understand, yet not quite. Shen Ling understood, biting her lip with a gleam of excitement in her eyes. Sister-in-law, you want her to get so carried away with arrogance that she reveals her true colors. I simply smiled without speaking. Reveal her true colors? No, this is only the first step. What I want is for her to weave a net with her own hands in this gilded cage, a net of death from which she cannot escape or break free. Yun Qingqing was indeed not one to stay quiet and obedient. In the first few days, she hypocritically pretended to be delicate, staying in the courtyard every day with tears streaming down her face, putting on a pitiful act for Shin Yulo to see. Shin Yulo was heartbroken and went to comfort her every day, keeping her company and chatting to lift her spirits. I paid no attention to any of it, only instructing the servants to send the finest tonics, the most fashionable fabrics, and jewelry in a continuous stream to the listening bamboo pavilion. In less than half a month, Yun Qingqing's illness had mostly recovered. She had also regained a plump and radiant appearance, no longer looking as if a gust of wind could knock her over. She began to feel unsatisfied with just staying in the courtyard and, taking advantage of Shin Yulo's favor, started wandering around the mansion. Today, she accidentally broke her mother-in-law's favorite glass cup. Tomorrow, she accidentally trampled on her father-in-law's prized orchid. The day after, she carelessly spilled ink all over Shin Ling's freshly completed embroidery. Each time, Shin Yulo was the first to rush out and shield her. She didn't mean to. Qingqing is frail. Don't you dare scare her. It's just a pot of flowers, isn't it? I'll pay you back for it. My mother-in-law was so angry she nearly fell over backward. My father-in-law's face turned ashen, and Shin Ling came running to me in tears to complain. Sister-in-law, look at her. She's too arrogant. We can't put up with this any longer. I patted her back soothingly, but my gaze drifted past her, looking toward the door. Shin Yulo was supporting the frightened Yun Qingqing as they passed by outside, a smug smile curling at the corner of Yun Qingqing's lips. I withdrew my gaze and said to Shin Ling, "Don't worry, let her be smug for a few more days. A fish won't bite the hook until it's well fed, right?" But my family was almost at their breaking point. My mother-in-law even began to doubt my plan. "Yun, this killing with kindness of yours, when will it actually work? I'm afraid before she's killed by the praise, we'll be driven to death by her." Looking at their anxious faces, I knew in my heart that it was time to release the first bait. So, on a beautiful and sunny afternoon, I accidentally twisted my ankle in the garden. I collapsed to the ground in agony, right in front of Shin Yulo and Yun Qingqing. Shin Yulo instinctively moved forward to help me up, but Yun Qingqing was quicker, letting out a sharp cry as she rushed to my side. Her tears fell instantly. "Madam, what's wrong? It's all my fault. I wasn't watching where I was going, and you twisted your ankle trying to avoid me." With those words, she instantly took all the blame upon herself, yet managed to paint herself as an innocent victim. Shin Yulo's footsteps came to an abrupt halt, his gaze toward Yun Qingqing filled with heartache and pity. I lay on the ground, watching his hesitant expression, my heart turning icy cold. My family members also rushed over upon hearing the news. My mother-in-law, looking at my ankle, pointed angrily at Yun Qingqing and scolded, "You jinx, get out of our Shin family." My father-in-law and Shin Ling also glared at her furiously. A great battle is about to break out. Shin Yulo was caught in the middle, torn between two difficult choices. Enduring the excruciating pain in my ankle, I reached out to him, my voice weak. "Husband, help me up." On the other side, Yun Qingqing cried even harder, her body going limp as if she were about to faint. "Brother Yulo, I feel so dizzy." All eyes were fixed on Shin Yulo. Who would he choose? Would he choose his lawfully wedded wife, who had toiled for the Shin family for years, or choose his savior who is too weak to take care of herself? In his previous life, he never had the chance to choose. This time, I laid the choice clearly before him. Shin Yulo's forehead was beaded with cold sweat. He looked at me, then at Yun Qingqing, his face full of struggle. Finally, he gritted his teeth and rushed toward the fainting Yun Qingqing. Holding her tightly in his arms, he didn't even dare to look at me, just shouted anxiously in my direction. "Qingyun, hang in there. Qingqing is about to collapse. I'll take her back to her room first." I lay on the cold ground, watching his hurried retreating figure as he carried another woman, and smiled. Tears streamed down from the corners of my eyes, scalding hot and burning. Mother-in-law was trembling with anger, and Shin Ling rushed over in tears to support me. "Sister-in-law." I grabbed her hand, shook my head at her, and whispered something only the two of us could hear. "See, this is our good husband, our good elder brother. So, never hold any illusions about him. From now on, the real show is just beginning." My ankle was seriously injured, and the doctor said it required 100 days of rest. I naturally handed over the authority to manage the household. In front of everyone in the Shin family, I handed the tally and account books to Shin Yulo, my husband. "I am currently unable to move about easily, and I fear I no longer have the strength to manage the household affairs." Shin Yulo felt deeply ashamed and repeatedly declined, but I was resolute. "We cannot let mother exhaust herself. You are the head of the family. It is only right that you take on this responsibility." My mother-in-law was naturally unwilling, but I stopped her with a look. I glanced at Yun Qingqing, who was on the verge of tears, and casually added, "Miss Yun is both clever and literate. If my husband ever finds himself overwhelmed, She could certainly lend a hand. Shen Yulo's eyes lit up, as if he had found a solution. Yun Qingqing quickly waved her hands in refusal. No, no, how could I dare? Though her words expressed reluctance, the ambition and longing in her eyes were impossible to hide. In the end, the matter was settled just like that. Shen Yulo took charge, while Yun Qingqing assisted. Shun Ling was so angry that she didn't eat for 3 days. Sister-in-law, how could you hand over the household management to them? Isn't that like putting a weasel in charge of the chicken coop? I sat on the couch, leisurely flipping through a book. If you don't open the chicken coop, how will you know how many chickens the weasel will steal? Don't worry, the old servants in the mansion are all our people, and the keys to the important storerooms are still with me. What I gave her are just some insignificant purchasing rights and personnel transfer authority. A small general's mansion. Are we afraid she'll turn the world upside down? What I gave Yun Qingqing was a shell that appears to have immense power but is actually constrained at every turn. But for Yun Qingqing, who had never held power before, this was already an immense temptation. She thought I had truly lost my influence and believed she was about to become the real mistress of the general's mansion. She began to carry out reforms with bold and decisive actions. First, she doubled the monthly allowances of the maids and elderly servants in her courtyard. Then, she purchased a large number of flashy but impractical luxury items, decorating the listening bamboo pavilion to a dazzling splendor. Shen Yulo, immersed in his life of comfort, was pleased with these minor matters. Feeling only that he had wronged her before and that this was merely a small compensation, the household expenses doubled within just 1 month. The accounting matron came to me every day with a worried look to report the accounts, and I simply told her to record them without making a fuss. The net has been cast. Now we just wait for the fish to swim right into it. The turning point came a month later. My father-in-law's old injury flared up, and the pain kept him awake all night. This old injury was left from the battlefield years ago and requires an extremely rare medicinal herb called snow soul lotus to suppress it. This medicine is priceless and hard to come by. The manor can only obtain 3 plants each year through special channels, and I have always kept them under careful guard. When I handed over the authority to manage the household, I deliberately left behind the key to the medicinal storeroom. When Shen Yulo rushed to me in a panic to ask for the medicine, I found myself in a difficult position. My dear husband, what an unfortunate coincidence. A few days ago, Miss Yun said she was feeling unwell, with a tightness in her chest. Seeing her pitiful state, I ended up using the last snow soul lotus to brew her some soup. I wore a face full of guilt and unease. Shen Yulo stood frozen in place as if struck by lightning. You gave the snow soul lotus to her? Yes, I blinked innocently. I noticed the symptoms seemed similar to the cold syndrome described in a medical book I read before, and the snow soul lotus is just the right remedy. I thought since father is in good health, it wouldn't be needed for now. Shen Yulo's lips trembled, unable to utter a single word. Yes, father-in-law is in good health, but this medicine is kept just in case of an emergency, which is more serious, Yun Qingqing's slight chest tightness or her father-in-law's life-threatening old injury. At that moment, a servant came to report that the father-in-law had fainted from the pain. Shen Yulo's face turned deathly pale, and without another thought for me, he turned and ran out. I watched his receding figure and slowly straightened up. Shen Ling emerged from behind the screen with a triumphant smile. Sister-in-law, your move is absolutely brilliant. Now let's see how Shen Yulo can still protect that wretched woman. I shook my head. This is not enough, just one medicine. And Shen Yulo would at most think I handled things poorly, and would still believe Yun Qingqing is innocent. What I want is for him to see with his own eyes what a venomous heart the treasure he holds in his hands truly has. I called my trusted maid over and whispered a few instructions in her ear. Go on, spread the word. The general's mansion is offering a high price for snow soul lotus, 10,000 gold per plant. A single stone stirred up 1,000 ripples. The news of the general's mansion offering a fortune for the medicine spread throughout the entire capital within half a day. Shen Yulo was so anxious he was at his wit's end, using all his connections, but still found nothing. The Duke lay in bed, his breath growing weaker and weaker, casting a pall of gloom over the mansion. Just when everyone was at a loss, a medicinal fragrance wafted from Yun Qingqing's courtyard. It was the unique, crisp aroma of the snow soul lotus. Shen Yulo was the first to rush in. There, Yun Qingqing was seen sitting before a small stove, personally brewing a bowl of medicine. In that bowl, there lay a completely intact snow soul lotus. Shen Yulo's eyes instantly reddened. Qingqing, you didn't use that medicine. Yun Qingqing was startled to see him and quickly stood up, her eyes brimming with tears. Brother Yulo, I heard that your father is gravely ill, and my heart couldn't bear it. Although the lady gave the medicine to me, how could I use such a precious herb? So I kept it all along. she said, handing over the medicine bowl with an air of solemn righteousness. Quick, take it to Uncle. As long as Uncle gets better, Ching-Ching's suffering a little is nothing. What a wonderful girl, kind, sensible, and understanding of the bigger picture. If it were any other time, Shen Yulo would probably be moved beyond words, but now, as he looked at that bowl of medicine, thought of his father lying on the brink of death, and then glanced at Yun Ching-Ching's rosy complexion, a terrible thought uncontrollably surfaced in his mind. She clearly knew his father needed this medicine, yet she had hidden it away, only bringing it out to play the good person after the whole household had been thrown into an uproar. Was she doing this on purpose? The thought startled even Shen Yulo himself. He dared not dwell on it further, took the medicine bowl, and turned to leave. Yun Ching-Ching watched his retreating figure, a faint, almost imperceptible smile curling at the corner of her lips. She believed that her tactic of playing hard to get would not only save the old general but also firmly establish her superiority over me in Shen Yulo's heart. But she didn't know that I had long been outside the house, taking in every bit of her smugness. I exchanged a glance with Shen Ling beside me. Shen Ling understood immediately and, with two sturdy maids, blocked the entrance to the listening bamboo pavilion. The medicine was delivered to my father-in-law's room. The most renowned old physician in the capital examined it and confirmed it was genuine, then immediately administered it to the eunuch. The medicine worked like a charm. In less than half an hour, the eunuch's complexion eased, and he fell into a deep sleep. Everyone in the Shun family breathed a sigh of relief. Shen Yulo's expression grew increasingly grim. He stood before the bed, silent for a long time. The mother-in-law walked over, patted his shoulder, and said meaningfully, "Yulo, sometimes, people's hearts are separated by layers of flesh. You can't judge someone just by their appearance." Shen Yulo stiffened. At this moment, Shen Ling brought people along and escorted Yun Ching-Ching over. Yun Ching-Ching was still putting on an act. Sobbing and crying, "What did I do wrong? Why are you treating me like this?" Shen Ling let out a cold laugh, took a wooden box from an elderly servant, and opened it in front of everyone. Inside were neatly stacked gold bars and silver notes, along with several land deeds. "What did I do wrong?" Shen Ling's voice was clear and sharp. "You've been playing the good person with our Shun family's medicinal herbs while secretly selling off the household's assets to line your own pockets. You've only been in the residence for a month and have already embezzled a full 5,000 taels. Yun Ching-Ching, you have some nerve." Yun Ching-Ching's face turned deathly pale. "I didn't. This is slander. Slander." I slowly walked out from the inner chamber, the bandages on my ankle already removed, moving with ease. I walked up to her, looking down at her from above. "Do you think you've covered your tracks perfectly? You bribed the purchasing manager, passing off inferior goods as quality ones, pocketing the price difference. You withheld the servants' monthly wages, only to put them straight into your own pocket. You even secretly pawned off many of the valuable ornaments in your courtyard. Every single one of these accounts, I've recorded them here for you." One by one, I threw a ledger at her feet. Yun Ching-Ching was utterly panicked. She looked pleadingly at Shen Yulo, tears streaming down her face like raindrops on pear blossoms. "Brother Yulo, please believe me, I didn't do it. It's all her. It's all Su Qingyun who's framing me." This was her last lifeline. She was certain that Shen Yulo would, as always, stand by her side without hesitation. Shen Yulo looked at her with a complex expression. There was disappointment, heartache, and a trace of anger at being deceived. He finally spoke, his voice hoarse and strained. "Account books can be falsified, but what about witnesses, the stewards you bribed, the servants whose wages you withheld, and the pawnshop appraisers? They are all waiting in the front hall right now." Yun Ching-Ching felt as if she had fallen into an icy abyss. Only then did she realize that this was a trap, a meticulously crafted, inescapable net, tailored just for her. The truth was revealed. Yun Ching-Ching's greed and hypocrisy were brutally torn open, exposed before everyone's eyes. She no longer cried out, just collapsed on the ground, her face ashen. The mother-in-law stepped forward and slapped her hard across the face. "You wicked woman, my husband nearly lost his life because of you. Someone, drag her out and beat her to death with clubs." Several strong servants immediately stepped forward. Yun Ching-Ching was so terrified that her soul seemed to flee her body. She scrambled frantically to Shen Yulo's feet and clung desperately to his leg. "Brother Yulo, save me. I was wrong. I was truly wrong. I was just momentarily blinded. I'll never dare do it again." Shen Yulo closed his eyes, his face filled with anguish. On one side was his father, who had nearly been killed. On the other was the woman he had once deeply loved. Reason told him that this woman deserved to be cut into 1,000 pieces. Yet emotionally, he couldn't bring himself to make the decision. Just as he hesitated, I spoke up. "Mother, please stay calm." I walked up to Yun Ching-Ching, crouched down, pinched her chin, and forced her to look at me. Killing her outright would be too easy on her. My voice was soft, yet it sent a chill down the spines of everyone present. Tell me, who sent you to the Shen family? Yun Qingqing's pupils contracted sharply. I smiled and said, stop pretending, with your level of intelligence. You couldn't have devised such a meticulously layered scheme. There's someone else behind you, isn't there? Is it the third prince? When I uttered this name, I clearly saw the expressions of the eunuch and Shen Yulo change. The general's mansion holds military power and has always remained neutral, yet it is the target that every prince wishes to win over, and the third prince is the most ambitious among them. Yun Qingqing's eyes flickered intensely. She bit her lip hard, refusing to speak. Not going to talk, huh? I released her and stood up. That's fine, I've already found out. Your brother is currently serving under the third prince, isn't he? Just a few days ago, he even received a reward of 500 taels of silver. Let me think, if I were to send you, along with these embezzled items and the evidence of your collusion with your brother, to the Dali temple right now, tell me, in order to protect himself, would the third prince shield you and your sister? Or would he silence you both? Yun Qingqing's last line of psychological defense completely collapsed. She trembled like a leaf, screaming, I'll talk, I'll tell you everything. It turned out that she was not some chance-encountered savior at all. Everything was a scheme orchestrated by the third prince. First, he engineered the accident that endangered Shen Yulo, then had Yun Qingqing coincidentally appear to rescue him, gaining his trust and affection. The goal is to use Yun Qingqing to either bring the Shen family to his side or, if they cannot be won over, to divide and destroy them from within, ultimately leading to their complete ruin. In the previous life, they succeeded. Shen Yulo, blinded by love, became the third prince's sharpest blade, personally sending his own family to their doom. In this life, I will not give him that chance again. All conspiracies have come to light. Shen Yulo stood there, like a petrified statue. He was no fool. He knew what this meant. The pure and beautiful love he believed in was nothing but a meticulously planned political conspiracy. The woman he had always yearned for, his white moonlight, was a female spy attempting to overthrow his entire family, and he himself was the most thoroughly used, foolish pawn. With a thud, he fell straight to his knees, not to my parents, but to me. Qingyun, I'm sorry. His voice was filled with endless regret and despair. I looked at him, feeling nothing inside. I'm sorry. Can a simple I'm sorry bring back the lives of my entire family from our previous life? I ignored him and simply instructed the servants, keep her under guard, send her out of the city overnight, and hand her over to General Wang at the military camp in the outskirts of the capital. He knows how to handle this. General Wang is my father-in-law's sworn friend and also the person the emperor trusts the most. Handing the person over to him would not only bring the third prince's conspiracy to the emperor's attention but also keep the Shen family clear of the matter. As for Yun Qingqing's fate, it no longer mattered. What awaited her was an outcome more painful than death. After handling everything, I finally turned to look at Shen Yulo. He was still kneeling on the ground, looking up at me with a gaze that was almost pleading. Qingyun, give me another chance, will you? I looked at this face that once made my heart flutter, but now it only felt utterly unfamiliar and ridiculous. I shook my head. Shen Yulo, have you ever thought, if I hadn't discovered her scheme, if we had still been like before, just crying and making a scene, just locking you up, what would the outcome have been? I didn't mention the secret of rebirth, but I knew he understood. The color drained from his face in an instant. Because he knew that he had almost been the one to bring about that ending. To protect Yun Qingqing, he would once again raise his blade against us. After the turmoil, the Shen family returned to peace, but it could never go back to how it was before. The third prince was placed under house arrest in the imperial clan court on charges of planting spies and attempting to assassinate high-ranking court officials, completely losing his eligibility to contend for the throne. The Shen family, having contributed to the exposure of the plot, received numerous rewards, further solidifying their status. Everyone believed it was a complete victory. Only we ourselves knew how devastating this victory truly was. After a serious illness, the father-in-law seemed to have aged 10 years and no longer concerned himself with court affairs. The mother-in-law dismissed her beloved opera troupe and spent her days chanting Buddhist scriptures at home. Shun Ling became withdrawn and often lost in thought by herself. As for Shen Yulo, he shut himself in his study for 3 days and nights, refusing even a drop of water. On the 4th day, I pushed the door open and entered. He sat behind the desk, having lost a great deal of weight, looking haggard and withered. On the table lay a finished letter. Seeing me, he stood up and pushed the letter toward me. This is a letter of separation. His voice was hoarse, as if scraped by sandpaper. I have already signed it. Half of the estate's property will go to you, the hot spring villa in the suburbs of the capital, as well as several shops in the southern part of the city, will also be transferred to your name. Qingyun, I have wronged you. I was blind and foolish, failing to see clearly, and nearly brought harm to you and our entire family. I do not ask for your forgiveness, only that, in the days to come, you may live in peace and prosperity. I picked up the divorce letter. The ink on it was still fresh. In my previous life, I begged him for a divorce, but he would rather die than agree. In this life, he let go willingly. Was it out of guilt, or because he finally understood that between us, there was already an ocean of blood and enmity? I said nothing, only quietly put away the divorce agreement. The things he gave me, I accepted them without hesitation. This is what I deserve. It's what I've earned with the blood and tears of 2 lifetimes. The day I left the general's mansion was a sunny day. My mother-in-law held my hand, tears streaming down her aged face. Yoon, my child, it's our Shun family that has wronged you. From now on, this will always be your home. Come back and visit anytime. Father-in-law sighed and handed me a heavy box. Inside are the deeds to all the properties in the capital. Take them as your dowry. Shun Ling hugged me, crying like a child. Sister-in-law, please don't go. I smiled and wiped away her tears. Silly girl, I'm just moving to a different place. It's not like we won't see each other again. My words were like a bucket of cold water, dousing the joy that had filled the room. I heard that before dawn, he had already rushed on horseback to the northern frontier. He volunteered to the emperor to guard the most bitterly cold and war-torn border. Perhaps he intended to atone for his sins in this way. The carriage slowly drove out of the general's mansion gate. I lifted the carriage curtain and glanced back one last time. The gilded general's mansion plaque gleamed brilliantly in the sunlight. I once thought this would be my lifelong home. Only now do I realize it was merely a stop along my journey. I once believed that marrying Shen Yulo was the greatest fortune of my life. Only now do I realize that leaving him was my true rebirth. A year later, in Jiangnan, I bought a lakeside residence and began living the life I had always dreamed of. Each day is simply spent reading, sipping tea, admiring flowers, and boating on the lake. No schemes or calculations, no sinister human hearts. Shen Ling often writes to me, in her letters. She says that my father-in-law and mother-in-law have become enamored with traveling, journeying far and wide all day long, and their health has actually grown stronger. She says that she herself has also started learning to manage the household affairs and has become engaged to a talented young scholar. At the end of the letter, she always mentioned Shen Yulo. She said he had achieved great military feats in the northern frontier but never returned to the capital to claim his rewards. She said he often sat alone, facing the direction of the capital, for an entire night. She said he sent word through others, asking how I was doing. I folded the letter and set it aside. I picked up the teacup and gazed at the shimmering surface of the lake, with the distant mountains dark and hazy like painted eyebrows. Is it good? This question no longer needed an answer. On the horizon, the setting sun was slowly descending, dyeing the entire lake a warm golden hue. I know, my life has just begun. The second story. My husband is the most skilled divine physician in the world. He has a childhood sweetheart who is a master at crafting poisons. For over a decade, the two of them have been locked in a thrilling game of poison and antidote, until the day I was administered a deadly poison and nearly lost my life. Waking up, he wrote the prescription while sighing. Don't blame Kay, she's just used to being childish. She didn't mean to harm you. She knew I could save you and was deliberately trying to provoke me. As soon as he finished speaking, he was hurriedly called away by Shun Ku's people. He left in such a hurry that he didn't even notice one ingredient was missing from the prescription. The long-awaited system was finally triggered. To return home, you must die by the male lead's hand. The antidote has turned into poison. The host may choose whether to take it or not. I handed the prescription to the maid and smiled. Go and brew it. By the time Wei Yanji returned, the maid had just brought in the freshly brewed medicine. The steaming medicinal brew veiled his face in mist. He took off his outer robe and smiled at me. What a coincidence. Are you waiting for me to feed you? As he spoke, he took the medicine and walked toward me, skillfully scooping a spoonful, blowing on it, and bringing it to my lips. I stared blankly. Having waited so many years, I could finally go back. Seeing me motionless, he raised an eyebrow slightly. What's wrong? This medicine works best when taken hot. I smiled silently, reached out to take the medicine bowl, and downed it in one gulp. Perhaps I drank too hastily, as it made me cough uncontrollably. Wei Yanji patted my back with a mix of concern and amusement. What's the rush? No one's competing with you. Why are you so well behaved today, not insisting on me feeding you? I straightened up and gave a slight smile. No need, not anymore. He was slightly taken aback, his expression gradually dimming, his voice low. Are you still angry with Kay? He sighed and reached out to hug me. She's just being childish. Not bad by nature. Since you're fine, why not let it go? I subtly avoided him, my tone indifferent. What if something had really happened to me? He froze, then shook his head helplessly and let out a wry smile. With me here, how could that be? Indeed, my husband is the most skilled divine physician in the world. There is no poison he cannot neutralize. Over the years, Shunku has poisoned me countless times, from blindness and loss of voice to rashes and diarrhea, yet Wei Yenji has always cured me with ease. This time, how could it be any different? He looked at me, a faint smile flickering in his peach blossom eyes, with an expression of indulgence and adoration, as if all my suffering was nothing but a farce to him. How did it come to this? In the beginning, he clearly cared too. Back then, we were newlyweds, and Shunku put starflowers in my wine, causing me to break out in rashes all over my body, itching terribly. Wei Yenji was furious. After detoxifying me, he took up his sword and vowed to cut ties with Shunku. Yet, in just 3 days, he succumbed to her tearful pleas. Shunku hanged herself. When he arrived, she had already kicked over the stool. With red marks from the rope clearly visible on her neck, Wei Yenji held her in his arms, both shocked and frightened, filled with guilt and heartache. She was feeling miserable and just needed to vent a little. She didn't mean to harm you, Xiao. Let's just let this go. After returning, he rubbed his temples wearily and told me. Only then did I realize that he had once made a marriage promise with Shunku. He promised her that if he still hadn't found someone he loved by the age of 20, he would marry her. Unfortunately, on his 20th birthday, he met me and fell in love at first sight. Shunku went mad with rage. So he sent her to the southern border, determined to marry me. I must admit I've wronged her, Xiao. Since we are one as husband and wife, could you perhaps yield to her a little more? From then on, I kept retreating and yielding, until today, when she administered a fatal poison to me. The system says that Wei Yenji has me in his heart, and if I can't bear to part, I should just let him discover the prescription is wrong. He would surely be filled with guilt and try desperately to make it up to me, to love me. I shook my head in silence. What use do I have for his guilt? It's not something of any value. But host, didn't you already give up on returning to the modern era? I remained silent. Yes, Wei Yenji treated me so well that I felt the task of dying by his hands was simply impossible to complete. Besides, there was no one left at home to worry about me. So I might as well stay and keep him company. Yet I forgot that human hearts are fickle, and old friends are hard to come by. No, I'd rather go home. It's just a month's worth of medicinal soup. I can wait. Shunku is coming to apologize to me. I instinctively refused. No need. Every time she comes, it never bodes well. Wei Yenji held my hand, his affection tender and lingering. How could I not use it? You are my first wife. I cannot always let you suffer grievances. I lowered my eyes. In the past, I would have been deeply moved, but now I only feel disgust. People say that the miraculous Dr. Wei practices medicine to aid the world, treating nobles and commoners alike without discrimination, embodying the demeanor of a true gentleman, even in family matters. He maintains fairness and justice, leaving no room for criticism from others. Unfortunately, he wished to serve both his faith and his love, but ended up failing at both. Shunku offered me a toast. The peach blossom fruit wine, with its lingering aroma, looked utterly intoxicating. I didn't answer. I'm allergic to peach blossoms, and Wei Yenji knows it. I suppose Shunku is aware too. After all, the baby's breath that gave me a rash back then was mixed with peach blossoms. Wei Yenji winked at me. Drink it quickly. Don't worry, I've prepared an antidote. I won't let you suffer. Be good. I forced her to come and apologize to you, so it's normal for her to be a little upset and act out. Since she's agreed to apologize, don't fuss over these small details. I smiled knowingly, took the peach blossom wine, and under his gratified gaze, raised my hand and splashed it over him. The wine dripped down Shunku's head, mingling with her disbelieving eyes, making her look utterly disheveled. Wei Yenji abruptly stood up and looked at me, his usually gentle face instantly turning ashen. Perhaps because I was about to leave, my heart felt at ease. And I no longer wanted to endure the grievances of the past. I smiled faintly. I told you before, I don't need an apology. Next time, don't call me for this kind of play that whitewashes the truth and makes everyone happy. Wei Yenji slammed the door and left. He was very angry and didn't come back for several days. In the evening, the maid brought me the medicine as usual, hesitating to speak. After I finished drinking, she finally spoke. Madam, though the master hasn't returned. He sends someone every day to remind me to watch you take the medicine. He said Miss Shen's poison is potent, and missing even a single day of the antidote is not allowed. He insisted that I must keep an eye on you. The maid's expression was complicated. Madam, the master still cares for you in his heart. I twitched the corner of my lips. So, he was this afraid of my death. I wonder what expression he had when he realized it was the prescription he wrote himself that poisoned me to death. Cough, cough, I wanted to laugh, but coughed up a mouthful of blood instead. The wooden table was stained crimson, startling the maid. My vision went black, and I fainted. Indeed, with several poisons mixed together, my health is deteriorating rapidly. I fear I won't even last another month. When I woke up, it was already dark. By the candlelight, Wei Yenji looked anxious and was about to reach out to check my pulse. He was travel-worn, his clothes covered in dust, as if he had just rushed back. Caught off guard by my suddenly opened eyes, he froze for a moment, then quickly pressed his lips together, withdrew his hand, and looked displeased. When did you learn such tricks, Hu Yunqiao? I knew my antidote couldn't have failed to cure you. If you wanted me to come back, you could have just said so. Why pretend to be unconscious? I tucked my wrist back under the covers, turned my back, and retorted indifferently, if you don't want to be here, then just go back. That was close. Just a little more and he would have found out. He choked up, but his expression softened instead. A hand rested on my shoulder, and a gentle voice said, "All right, still sulking, it's such a small matter. If you don't like it, I won't invite her over again in the future. You're always talking about going to Jiangju. How about I take you back in a few days?" My heart stirred, and I nodded. My adoptive parents are in Jiangju. Before going home, I should visit them one more time. It would be good to have him escort me. It's a pity he still couldn't accompany me. On the day of departure, a plague broke out in Liangcheng, and Wei Yenji was called to stop in front of the carriage. He looked at me guiltily. "Xiao," I smiled understandingly. "It's all right, you go ahead." Several commoners bowed to me, saying, "Madam, you are truly righteous." I got into the carriage without looking back. Wei Yenji is a divine physician. Such things have happened to him many times. When it comes to matters of life and death, I have never taken them lightly. Matters of human life take precedence over me, as they rightfully should. I just never expected that everything could come before me, yet Shunku could come before everything else. Wei Yenji still went to Jiangju. When I arrived, he was frantically testing medicines. Seeing me, he was somewhat embarrassed and sighed helplessly. "Okay, that girl is being reckless. She tested poison on a few commoners, and it caused an uproar in the court. I must hurry and prepare the antidote. What about the plague?" I stared intently into his eyes. Wei Yenji hesitated. "There are others." I knew right away that he never went to Liangcheng. Shunku testing poisons on commoners was already a common occurrence. She would administer the poison, and Wei Yenji would provide the antidote. This back and forth had become a kind of playful game between them. It wasn't that I hadn't tried to persuade him. But Wei Yenji would only smile helplessly and say, "What else can I do? She's my junior sister, I have to spoil her." That day I learned that the compassionate physician Wei, who cared for all living beings, could also treat human life as worthless for the sake of another. By the pond, I saw Shunku leisurely feeding the fish. She glanced at me provocatively, lifting her chin. "Sister, I told you, if I want, my senior brother can come to my side anytime. Do you believe it now?" I closed my eyes. "Those are human lives." She raised an eyebrow. "So what? My senior brother said he would clean up any mess for me, no matter what. Besides, they're just ants. It's their good fortune to be treated by my senior brother." I didn't answer. Sooner or later, she will learn that these ants will make her pay the price. I have already kept evidence of her actions, and before I leave, I will present these to the emperor. Wei Yenji worked busily for a while and finally produced the antidote. After treating the common people, he rushed to the government office to plead for Shunku's case to be dismissed. After finishing all this, he finally remembered to look for me. "Okay, wants to stroll around Jiangju City. I'll take her tomorrow. Would you like to join us?" He looked at me with a beaming smile. I shook my head to decline. He seemed a bit disappointed, but also somewhat relieved. "I do need to go shopping, but I'd rather not go with them. My sister-in-law is about to give birth, and I need to prepare some things. Perhaps Jiangju City is too small." In less than half an hour, I ran into them. I frowned slightly and lifted my foot to leave. Does senior brother prefer a boy or a girl? What if I give birth and senior brother doesn't like the child? My body jolted to a sudden halt, and I stiffly turned my head. By the small window of the golden jade pavilion, Shunku was holding up a few golden locks. Comparing them, Wei Yenji's face turned pale as he cautiously covered her mouth. "What nonsense are you talking? Be careful someone hears." Shunku pouted. "What's there to be afraid of? She'll find out sooner or later." Blood rushed to my head, and I could barely stand. It turned out that Shunku and I had been intimate on the day he apologized to me. Shunku had poisoned himself, and only physical union could cure it. One was burning with passion, the other half resisting, half yielding. Wei Yenji hesitated and spoke up. "Wait a moment, Let me think about how to tell Xiao. I could no longer hold back and almost fled in a rush. After returning to my room, my eyes were still red. I thought I had hardened my heart enough. But I never expected that so many years of feelings couldn't just be forgotten so easily. A metallic sweetness overflowed in my mouth. I wiped the corner of my lips, spitting blood again, my stomach cramping in pain along with it. The dormant system suddenly woke up. Host, good news. If you take one more bowl of medicine today, you'll be beyond cure. Not even the greatest immortal could save you. Then you won't have to worry about being discovered by the male lead anymore. I put away the handkerchief and smiled along. Really, that's such good news. After the evening meal, Wei Yanji returned. He leaned in close to me, his eyes filled with concern. Are you feeling unwell? You don't look too good. I turned my body away. No problem. Perhaps I haven't taken the medicine yet. Why is the medicine so slow today? I'll go check. I was slightly taken aback and was about to stop him when I saw Chua bringing the medicine over. I breathed a sigh of relief as Wei Yanji took it with a smile. This medicine is quite bitter, but don't slack off, it's a life-saving remedy. Here, let me feed you. This time, I didn't snatch it away but let him feed me sip by sip. Wei Yanji, this final dose of poison that would take my life, you fed it to me with your own hands. I slept deeply, dreaming of returning to the modern world one moment, and dreaming of the good days with Wei Yanji the next. When I woke up, Wei Yanji was not by my side. I didn't ask too much, and after the meal, I prepared to visit my adoptive parents. Just as I was about to step out of the second gate, I heard Shinku shouting in a furious rage. Wait, how much longer do you want me to wait? Are you really that afraid of Hu Yunqiao? You clearly promised me you wouldn't touch her before the child was born. I saw you coming out of her room with my own eyes, and you even kissed her. Wei Yanji's face turned pale and then flushed, his voice lowered. I told you, she hasn't been well lately. Can't you just wait until she's detoxified? I will give you an answer within a month at the latest. I curled my lips, finding it amusing. What difference did it make whether it was sooner or later? So I stepped out. No need for a month. Let's settle it now. Wei Yanji turned around abruptly, his handsome face instantly turning pale. Xiao, in the study, their eyes met. Wei Yanji looked at me, his eyes filled with unease. That night was an accident. Kay was poisoned. If I didn't save her, she would die. Xiao, I had no choice. I couldn't just watch her die in front of me. By the time I wanted to distance myself from her, it was already too late. She was pregnant, after all. With my child, Xiao, I couldn't bear to abandon her. He was always in a difficult position. He always had no other way. He always had his reasons. He had so many reasons. But I didn't want to hear them anymore. Speak, noble concubine or equal wife. He was slightly taken aback. I calmly repeated it and added, or, if you want me to step aside and let her be the main wife, that's not impossible either. He flusteredly reached for my hand. How could that be, Xiao? The position of main wife will always be yours, I promise. Even if Aku enters the household, her status will never surpass yours. I curled my lips into a smile and laughed. It seems, it's a concubine. All right then. His eyes widened in pleasant surprise, gleaming with light. Xiao, you agreed. I nodded with a smile. From now on, whoever you marry or love, I won't stand in your way anymore. He breathed a sigh of relief, reached out to hug me, his voice trembling as if choked with emotion. I always knew, Xiao, you're the most virtuous and generous. You wouldn't blame me. You should know, I feel guilty in my heart. These days I haven't been eating or sleeping well. Thinking about how to explain things to you, I've even lost weight. Xiao, you must help me regain my health. Waves of nausea washed over me, but I calmly pushed the person away. Alright, hurry and go explain things to your junior sister. Due to the pregnancy, the wedding date was set for the very near future. In just over a month, Shunku entered the household, relying on the child in her womb. Her temperament grew increasingly willful, time and again in front of Wei Yanji. She would try to compete with me, from my courtyard down to a single jade hairpin. She insisted on contending with me over everything. If Wei Yanji showed the slightest hesitation, she would cry and make a scene, saying she had entrusted herself to the wrong man and threatening to get rid of the child. She's anxious during pregnancy and lacks a sense of security. They're just objects after all. Xiao, don't take it to heart. Wei Yanji comforted me like this. Of course. I didn't take it to heart. Even if I were to leave, I couldn't take these things with me. So I simply moved them to the side courtyard for some peace and quiet. But I never expected that even a moment of peace would be so hard to come by. Shunku fell into the water, right in front of me. By the time Wei Yanji arrived, she was already flailing in the water. After finally pulling her ashore, Shunku clutched her stomach, crying and accusing me of harming her. Barefaced, blatant framing. I wanted to laugh, but couldn't bring myself to. Wei Yenji stared at me intently, as if trying to bore a hole through me. He cared deeply about this child, I knew it, and Shunku knew it too. In the bedroom, he paced with his hands behind his back, his expression extremely grim. I didn't explain, nor did I want to. After a long while, he stopped walking, his dark eyes shadowed, his voice hoarse. I know it wasn't you, Xiao. You are my wife. How could I not know your nature? You would never stoop to such things. I raised an eyebrow, feeling a long-lost warmth rise within me, but the next moment, it turned utterly cold. Yet she used her pregnancy to frame you, proving she truly fears you. Xiao, just apologize to her. Give in to her this once. I laughed, almost to the point of tears. Wei Yenji, are you out of your mind? He closed his eyes and let out a long sigh. I know I've wronged you, but Xiao, I had no choice. She insisted you had to pay the price. What price? After a moment of hesitation, he turned his head away. She said if you take the sterilization drug, this matter will be settled, and she won't pursue it further. As he spoke, he looked back at me, his gaze earnest. Xiao, your body can no longer conceive, so even if you drink it, it won't matter. Just humor her. All right. My heart turned ice cold, and I forced a bitter smile. Wei Yenji, do you know why I can no longer conceive? It's been so long. I had almost forgotten I, too, once carried a child. Unfortunately, in less than a month, it was miscarried. The reason was that bowl of peach blossom made starry sky. That rash didn't ruin my appearance, but it took my child and ended any possibility of me bearing children again. I know, I've wronged you. He slumped his head in dejection, his knuckles turning white as he pressed them against the desk, clearly struggling with inner anguish. It was only then that I noticed how much he had withered since Shunku married into the family. Wei Yenji took a deep breath and looked at me with stubborn determination. Xiao, she comes from a rough background and lacks understanding, but you're different. You're educated, virtuous, gentle, and always so considerate. You can no longer conceive. I can't just stand by and watch her run wild again and risk losing this child. Just this once. If you give in to her this time, she's promised me she'll take good care of her health and never trouble you again. Xiao, please, I'm begging you. Her child will be your child too. Think of it as your own flesh and blood. Smack. I couldn't bear to listen any longer and slapped him across the face, cutting off his next words. I approached him, enunciating each word deliberately. Wei Yenji, you make me sick. Not getting the result she wanted, Shunku cried and threw a tantrum, smashing everything in the courtyard to pieces. To placate her, Wei Yenji revealed that I could no longer conceive, but even that failed to cheer her up. I don't believe it. You're lying, senior brother. You just like that bitch Wu Yunqiao. You refused to give her the infertility drug. You only want her child, not mine. Shunku was hysterical, pounding her stomach with all her might. Wei Yenji was both shocked and terrified, quickly holding her and coaxing her in a low voice. Chaos ensued once again. When Chioa came to tell me about this, I was taking painkillers. Perhaps the time to return is near, as the poison's effects are accelerating, and sometimes the pain is simply unbearable. I swallowed the pill, and my stomach eased up a bit. Feeling the pain slowly subside, I forced a faint smile. See, there's still some trouble ahead. Shunku's nature is arrogant and domineering. With an extremely strong possessive desire, when he hadn't obtained what he wanted, he could still restrain himself somewhat. But now that he has it, his true colors are fully revealed. With her carrying on like this, I'm afraid not only Wei Yenji can't bear it, but it's also uncertain whether the pregnancy can be maintained. Sure enough, just a few days later, Wei Yenji came looking for me. Under the corridor eaves, he looked gloomy and had lost several pounds in just a short period of time. He looked at me, his eyes devoid of joy or sorrow, and said right away, "Uke's child is gone." I looked up, neither confirming nor denying. "Are you satisfied now, Xiao?" His voice was calm, but I could sense the storm beneath the restraint. I didn't answer. The next moment, he punched the doorframe, his dark eyes turning red, almost as if dripping with blood, his gaze at me filled with both hatred and fury. "Hu Yunqiao, when did you become so cold-blooded and heartless? If you hadn't refused to apologize, how could Uke have ended up like this? How could she have lost the child? Even now, do you not feel the slightest bit of guilt or remorse?" Only then did I realize that he attributed Shunku's miscarriage to me. I was so angry I laughed. "I wonder if when I miscarried, Dr. Wei, you ever asked your dear junior sister if she felt even a hint of guilt or remorse? She didn't mean to." The retort almost slipped out. "She doesn't understand." "But do you not understand either?" As if realizing something, he waved his hand, his expression turning ashen and dejected, staggering back a step. "Forget it. There's no use saying these things anymore. I will stay by Uke's side these days. Do not come to the front courtyard to upset her unless necessary." I will come to see you again once she has recovered. Take care of yourself. Wei Yanji kept his word. From that day on, he never set foot in my courtyard again. I heard that under his careful care, Shunku slowly recovered, and her emotions gradually stabilized. As for me, my illness grew worse, and the color in my face faded more and more. Chua was both happy and worried. Madam Shun has recovered greatly, and the divine physician should come to see you now. You must have him examine you thoroughly to find out the cause of why your illness has been worsening. I smiled but said nothing. Anyway, as the system said, even a celestial being couldn't save me now, so it didn't matter if Wei Yanji found out. Finally, on the second day after Chua finished speaking, Wei Yanji arrived. However, he wasn't here to diagnose my illness, but to send me to prison. Uke's poisoning of the people in Jiangju has been discovered, and I have also been reported for not sending her to Liangcheng to treat the plague. Now, the emperor has summoned me. Her health has just recovered and she cannot bear the shock. I have already reported to the superiors that the Jiangju incident was your doing. After all, the people know I was originally supposed to escort you to Jiangju Archiao. If you take the blame for Uke this once, I will never hold any of the past grievances against you again. Is that acceptable? He looked at me with a complicated expression. As dawn broke, the hazy mist veiled his face, and it felt as though I was truly seeing this person for the first time. The initial surprise and enchantment of our first meeting, the tender affection under the crabapple tree, the solemn vows of love on our wedding night, all these memories flashed through my mind one by one, finally freezing on this cold, unfeeling face. I suddenly remembered that crabapple flower beneath the hopeless mountain. I should never have accepted it, nor should I have been mistaken for so many years. After a long while, I heard my own voice say, "Okay." He seemed taken aback by how readily I agreed, pausing for a moment before nodding. "It's best that you've come around. Don't worry, you're my wife, they won't do anything to you. At most." He pressed his lips together and said no more. Indeed, Physician Wei is a guest of honor to the Empress Dowager. So naturally they wouldn't do anything serious to his wife. At most, it would just be a few days in prison. In exchange, I asked for a whole jar of pain relief pills. He seemed a bit nervous and asked me where it hurt. I casually curved my lips and said, "My heart aches." He fell silent, lowering his head. I gave a mocking smile and brushed past him. "Just kidding. Marrying you was the biggest regret of my life." The figure beside me suddenly stiffened. On the day I left for the capital, aside from taking the pills, I also brought along an embroidered box. Inside, it contained a collection of Shunku and Wei Yanji's deeds over the years. The Empress Dowager favors Wei Yanji, but the emperor is not an easy man to deal with. If he were to learn that these two have been toying with the lives of the people, he would surely not let them off lightly. What I must do is bring these before His Majesty. This is also the reason I agreed to Wei Yanji. Everything went smoothly. The only surprise was the painkiller pill. Wei Yanji deceived me. What was in the medicine jar wasn't painkillers, but aphrodisiac pills meant for intimate encounters. So when His Majesty asked me what I desired, I requested a prescription for pain relief from the Imperial Medical Institute. The poison's effects grew increasingly frequent, the pain striking intermittently, almost making me wish for immediate death. My face was as pale as paper, and even when I went out to fetch medicine, I covered it with a veil, fearing I might startle passers-by. Shunku appeared at this moment. She pointed cheerfully at a herb in my hand and called out happily, "Husband, I found it. There's fleeceflower root here." She had filled out quite a bit, and her complexion was rosier than before. It seemed that in my absence, she had indeed been living very well. Following her call, Wei Yanji strode over, glanced at it, and laughed along. "Stop fooling around. Can't you see this young lady has already bought it?" Shunku pitifully shook his arm, pouting, "I don't care, I want this one." Wei Yanji sighed, helplessly pinched her nose, then turned and bowed deeply to me. "My wife needs this fleeceflower root for medicine. I wonder if you, madam, would be willing to part with it. If you are, I am prepared to pay double the price." The figure of an old acquaintance overlapped with the person before me, and I hazily recalled how he had once pleaded with others on my behalf. Only now, the one being pleaded to was me. I smiled faintly, my hoarse voice not very pleasant to hear. "What if I say I don't want to?" Wei Yanji's figure suddenly froze. Chua appeared at just the right moment, rushing anxiously to my side. "Madam, why did you come alone to buy medicine? I've been searching for you everywhere." Wei Yanji shifted his gaze to her, then quickly back to me, his voice trembling slightly. "Eichao." The veil fell, revealing my deathly pale face. "What does the esteemed Dr. Wei mean by this? Are you planning to snatch my things to give to someone else again?" He paused for a moment, about to say it wasn't, but seeing Shunku's eager expression, he pressed his lips together and added, "You don't understand medicine or poisons. What do you need this fleeceflower root for?" I sneered. What's it to you? I haven't had the chance to ask Dr. Wei. When did the painkillers in this medicine jar turn into aphrodisiacs? I took out a small jar from my sleeve and tossed it onto the table. Wei Yanji looked somewhat embarrassed, turning his head away as he said stiffly, "It was Aku being mischievous. She secretly switched the medicine. I thought you wouldn't need the painkillers anyway, so I didn't bother to ask." Shinku also leaned over, curiously opening the medicine jar, and said with a grin, "Sister, why are you so angry? It's just a little something to help you pass the time." It was Shinku again, remembering that all the hardships of these days were thanks to her. A wave of intense annoyance suddenly welled up in my heart. With a sudden surge of strength, I grabbed the pill, pinched her chin, and forced it down her throat. "Great. Let me entertain you too." She was forced to swallow a few pills, choking and coughing uncontrollably. Wei Yanji pulled me away and shoved me aside, staring at me in disbelief. "Hui Yunqiao, have you lost your mind?" Supported by Chua, I barely managed to steady myself. "I have lost my mind. I should have long ago. That package of fleeceflower root never did make it back into my hands." And Wei Yanji, after disappearing for 3 days, finally came to see me. His eyes were dark and sunken, his steps unsteady. It seemed those few spring breeze pills had nearly drained him. Just a few steps away, he looked at me and coughed, a hint of heartache in his eyes. "Xiao, why do you look so pale? Did something upset you in the palace?" "I couldn't stop worrying about you. I originally intended to come to the capital to find you, but Aku insisted on tagging along, saying she wanted to brew new poisons. That's what delayed us." Seeing that I remained silent, his eyes darkened as he continued, "Since you've safely left the palace, let's let bygones be bygones. From now on, the 3 of us will live well together. Aku may be naive and straightforward, but she means no harm. Please be patient with her and teach her more. Things will surely get better. In a few days, it will be Uke's birthday. She comes from the countryside and has never had a grand celebration before. I want to give her a big one to confirm her status as an equal wife. Yun Xiao, please put some effort into arranging it. Uke will appreciate it." I found it somewhat amusing. Why should I want her appreciation? What is she to me, and why should I be responsible for her? "Where do you get such audacity, Divine Physician Wei?" Unexpectedly, I refused so directly, causing Wei Yanji's face to flush bright red, leaving him speechless and choking on his words. I had no intention of saying more. I pulled a sheet of paper from my sleeve, spread it out on the table, and sighed. "Let's part ways, Wei Yanji. If possible, I hope to completely sever ties with this person before I leave." Wei Yanji looked up, staring in disbelief at the 3 words above. "You want to divorce me? Is it because of the fleeceflower root, or because of Uke's birthday banquet? Xiao, are you going to make trouble for me too?" I had no intention of arguing with him. I simply ground the ink and handed him the brush, saying earnestly, "Just sign it, and you'll see whether I'm making trouble or not." His face turned pale then flushed red. In the end, he left without a word, his sleeve fluttering angrily. Wei Yanji was throwing a tantrum again. He brought Shen Ku to live in the villa where I resided, and made a grand spectacle of preparing the birthday banquet. The villa was bustling with activity, yet my quarters were deserted and lonely. To make matters worse, I had the prescription but no medicine, making the pain that racked my body even harder to endure. Chua tried every way to get out to buy medicine, but was driven back. The steward coldly tossed out a sentence. "No one is allowed to go out without the madam's permission." This madam referred to Shinku. Wei Yanji deliberately let her take charge of the household just to provoke me. While writhing in pain, I asked the system when I could die. The system hesitated, saying it should be soon. I sighed, thinking this was probably the price I had to pay for staying in this world. Tears and blood have taught me this lesson. Men are not to be trusted. Chua, having suffered some grievance yet again, came running over in tears. "Master wouldn't believe me. I told him the mistress is dying, but he said she's just throwing a tantrum, asking how she could possibly be dying when she seemed perfectly fine. He even said you'd faked a coma to deceive him before, and that if you've realized your mistake, you should go beg him in person. But the mistress is already too ill to leave her bed." As soon as the words were spoken, a figure followed closely behind, sneering coldly. I must see for myself whether this is true or. The moment his gaze fell upon me, his eyes suddenly froze. What happened to you?" I knew it must have been my skeletal frame that had frightened him. His face was deathly pale, his pupils constricted, and the fingertips that were about to touch my wrist trembled uncontrollably. The pain was slowly fading. I was probably really going to die. I tried to grin, but unexpectedly spat out a mouthful of blood. Wei Yanji's face was instantly a mess of shock and despair, and the last thing I saw before closing my eyes was his horrified, hopeless expression. Great, now I can finally die. Floating in mid-air, I could hear the wails from below. Wei Yanji held me, repeatedly checking my pulse, muttering incessantly, "How could this be? I already detoxified her, how could this happen?" Chua knelt on the ground crying, "Madam took your prescription, but not only did she not get better, her condition worsened. I wanted to ask you to see her, but Madam said it wasn't serious." Wei Yanji suddenly sprang up, his eyes wide open. "The prescription, where is the prescription?" Chua pulled out a yellowed piece of paper. "I brewed the medicine very carefully, checking each ingredient one by one, but Madam still isn't getting better, woo-woo." Wei Yanji's knuckles turned white as he gripped the paper, his gaze wandering around in confusion as he muttered to himself, "This can't be right, how could one ingredient be missing, how could it not be here?" Chua was puzzled. "What's missing?" Wei Yanji's facial muscles seemed to freeze. He suddenly pressed the paper against his face, tilting his head back as he wept, his voice hoarse. "Shou Wu. So it was he Shou Wu. What a coincidence that is. I probably didn't die completely. My soul has been drifting in mid-air, with no intention of returning to the modern world. The system isn't too happy. So this is what they call a divine healer, someone who can pull the dead back for 2 more days. I'm quite helpless too. Could I really go back alive?" The system shook its head firmly. "Impossible, at most. In 2 days, you will surely have your soul scattered and vanish." "No, wait. Your soul will return to the modern era." "Alright, I'll wait a bit longer. My body has likely become a living corpse, breathing, able to swallow and gulp, yet unable to speak or move. Wei Yanji holds me as if I were a treasure he has recovered after losing. Even though I remain silent and unresponsive, he tirelessly feeds me medicine and bathes me. He talks to me constantly, gentle and patient. "Xiao, it's my fault. I've wronged you. I will save you. Believe me, I've given you the painkiller. You won't feel any more pain. I've also gotten the fleeceflower root back. And I rewrote the prescription. This time the prescription is definitely correct. See for yourself if you don't believe me." He pulled out a brand new prescription and placed it in front of me. A bitter taste filled my mouth, and I spat it all out onto the prescription. His face turned pale, and he forced a smile as he cleaned up. "It's okay, we'll write another one. Deceiving oneself is pointless." A servant came to report that the lady of the house had arrived. He instantly became furious. "What lady? Your lady is right here." Shenku was stopped at the door, her eyes wide with fury. "Senior brother, she's dead. Hui Yunqiao is dead. You can't save her anymore." Wei Yanji stared at her blankly, his eyes suddenly gleaming with a fierce light. "It's you, it's all because of you. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have missed one ingredient in the prescription, and Xiao wouldn't have died. It's all your fault. It's all because of you. Xiao has suffered so much. She's in so much pain. If you had gone through this too, Xiao would be happy and she would come back." I vaguely felt that something was off. As it turned out, it was indeed wrong. Wei Yanji poisoned Shenku, rashes, loss of speech, loss of voice, every suffering I endured, he inflicted upon Shenku one by one. Holding my body, he watched Shenku struggle without a trace of emotion on his face. He coaxed softly, "Xiao, look, I've avenged you. Can you come back now?" Even floating in mid-air, I felt a chill run through my entire body. The system was right. Wei Yanji kept me for 2 days. 2 days later, a flash of white light appeared, and I returned to the modern era. I forgot all of this and started a new life. In the 2nd year of my return to the modern era, I heard the news brought by the system. After I left, Wei Yanji went completely mad. He began writing prescriptions and making medicine day and night, with Polygonum multiflorum being the most frequently used ingredient. By the time Shenku was taken away by the royal family, he was no longer in human form. Her and Wei Yanji's crimes were made public, and Shenku was sentenced to execution after the autumn. Wei Yanji was spared his life thanks to the Empress Dowager's strong protection, but due to his madness, he was never treated with respect again. The system finished speaking and also said goodbye to me. All the past events were like a dream. I took a deep breath and shook off everything in my mind. The sun was just right, and it was a brand new day.